For 10 years, I had called him family, my husband's charming younger brother who always knew how to make people laugh. Even in the worst moments, he was the one who helped fix our broken sink, babysat our kids without being asked, and always showed up at family dinners with a smile that made everyone feel safe. He was harmless, or so I thought. When my husband left, on a month-long business trip overseas, I never imagined how much things would shift. It started with little things, a text to check in, him bringing over dinner because he didn't like me eating alone, lingering eye contact that lasted longer than it should. I kept brushing it off until the night the power went out during a storm, and he stayed over to help with the generator. The air that night was heavy, not just with thunder, but with something unspoken, something tempting, something dangerous. What happened next changed everything I thought I knew about loyalty, love and desire, and the secret we shared that night. I've never told a soul until now. The rain was pounding so hard, I couldn't even hear myself think. The lights had gone out an hour ago, and I had just gotten the kids to fall asleep, using flashlight shadows and old lullabies. I wrapped a sweater around my shoulders and tiptoed downstairs, nearly bumping into him in the kitchen. "Need help with the generator?" he asked, his voice low and calm despite the chaos outside. I nodded, avoiding his eyes. "It's out back, I can't get it going." He moved past me, the scent of his cologne lingering behind him, something earthy and warm, completely unlike my husband's sharp, cold-fire aftershave. I followed him through the back door, my slippers soaking through instantly. After a few failed attempts, he got the generator to roar back to life. The garden lights flickered on. I sighed in relief. "You're a lifesaver," I said. When I turned, he was already looking at me. Really looking. His eyes didn't move away like they usually did. His shirt was soaked, clinging to him, and for a second, I forgot to breathe. "You shouldn't be out here alone," he said softly. "I'm not alone," I whispered back, too fast, too unguarded. He stepped closer. Maybe that's the problem. Lightning flashed across the sky, but the electricity between us was louder. I should have walked away. I didn't. Instead, I said the one thing that opened a door we could never close again. "Stay for tea." And just like that, the night stopped being about a storm and started being about everything we'd both been pretending not to feel. I don't know why I said it, stay for tea, like we were two old friends catching up on life. But the second those words slipped from my lips, his eyes shifted, the playful glint faded, replaced by something deeper, something I wasn't ready to admit I wanted. We walked inside quietly, dripping water across the kitchen floor. I grabbed 2 mugs, hands trembling just enough for him to notice. He didn't say anything, just stood there, watching me like I might disappear if he blinked. So I tried to keep my voice steady. "Milk or honey?" He smiled, surprised me. The kettle whistled. The storm eased into a quiet hum outside. But the storm in my chest had just begun. I handed him the mug, and for a second our fingers touched, warm, deliberate, too long to be innocent. "You know," he said, lowering his voice, "I've always admired how you hold this family together." I laughed nervously. "Someone has to. Your brother's barely around lately." "I notice, more than he thinks, more than you think." That silence between us grew heavier, the kind of silence that begs to be broken. I placed my cup down. "Why are you really here tonight?" He stepped forward slowly, deliberately. "Because you look at me like you've been waiting for me to ask you that." I should have stopped him, but my breath caught when he brushed a strand of wet hair from my cheek, his fingers tracing down my jaw. "I think about you more than I should." He whispered, "Tell me to leave and I will." But I didn't. I couldn't. My body leaned before my mind had the chance to stop it. And the moment his lips brushed mine, the whole world faded. The thunder, the guilt, the promises, everything disappeared. And for the first time in a long time, I felt wanted. His lips were warm, soft, hesitant, like he was waiting for me to pull away. I didn't. I leaned in, deepening the kiss, betraying every vow I had ever made with a single breath. And yet, it felt like relief, like something I'd been craving in silence for too long. When we finally pulled apart, both of us breathless, he rested his forehead against mine. "We should stop," he said, but made no move to back away. "I know," I whispered, heart pounding like it was trying to warn me, "but I don't want to." That was the most honest thing I'd said in months. Everything in our house suddenly felt louder, the clock ticking, the rain tapping on the windows, the silence from the empty hallway, where my husband used to stand before leaving for another trip, another meeting, another escape from the life we built together. "I've watched him neglect you for years," my brother-in-law said, his voice heavy, and I told myself it wasn't my place, that I was being selfish for noticing the way your smile started to fade. I blinked back, tears biting my lip. You were never just a brother to him, were you? He stepped back just enough to see my face. Not to you. My body shivered, not from the cold, but from the truth I had buried for so long. I tried to walk past him, but he gently grabbed my wrist. What happens now? He asked. I don't know, I admitted. But I do know I'll never be able to pretend this didn't happen. He nodded. Then don't, let's just not lie, not tonight. And somehow, that night, we didn't. We curled up on the couch, talking in whispers, touching fingertips like teenagers, discovering something dangerous and new. We didn't speak about the morning. We didn't speak about my husband. We just existed in the moment, reckless, fragile, and completely consumed by a love that never should have had a chance to grow. But the truth was already planted, and by morning, it would start to bloom. I woke up with my head on his chest, the steady beat of his heart beneath my ear. For a second, in that hazy morning light, everything felt normal, like this was my life, like I was allowed to feel safe in his arms. Then I heard the birds outside, the quiet hum of the generator, the soft patter of feet upstairs, my kids, and just like that, the real world came crashing back in. I sat up fast, guilt snapping around my ribs like a wire pulled too tight. He stirred beside me, eyes slowly opening. Morning, he whispered, reaching for me. But I stood. We can't, I said, voice shaking. We crossed a line. I know, he replied, sitting up slowly. But don't pretend it didn't mean something. It meant everything, I admitted, holding back tears. That's the problem. He ran his hand through his hair, frustration flickering across his face. You think I planned this, that I wanted to fall for you? I looked away. I think I did. Silence hung between us, raw, honest, heavy. I'll go, he finally said, standing. Before the kids come down. Before we ruin more than we already have. As he stepped toward the door, I whispered, what if I wanted to ruin it? He stopped, turned slowly. You don't mean that, he said, voice thick with emotion. I don't know what I mean anymore. I said, wrapping my arms around myself. All I know is last night made me feel seen, wanted, alive. His eyes softened. You are wanted. Not just for a night. Don't reduce what we have to a mistake. I looked at him, aching, torn, terrified, but it was a mistake. A beautiful, selfish mistake. He reached out like he might touch me again, then stopped himself. You know where to find me, if you decide it wasn't. And with that he walked out, leaving the door and my heart half open. Behind him, upstairs, I heard my daughter call for me. I wiped my tears, plastered on a smile, and walked up to play the role of the perfect mother, the perfect wife. But deep down, I knew everything had changed. Because once you taste a different kind of love, the one you had before never feels the same again. That entire day felt like walking on a tightrope over fire. I made breakfast while pretending nothing had happened. My son wanted extra syrup. My daughter spilled juice on her shirt, and I laughed like I wasn't falling apart inside. Like I hadn't kissed my brother-in-law just hours ago. Like I didn't still feel his lips on mine every time I blinked. My phone buzzed. A message from my husband. Flight delayed, might be back late tomorrow instead of tonight. Love you. Love you. The words hit like a slap. I stared at them too long, then locked my phone and slid it into a drawer like it might burn me. Later that afternoon, I passed by the guest room where my brother-in-law had stayed the night before the storm. His scent still lingered faintly on the pillow. I stood there, fingers trembling, until my daughter ran up and tugged at my shirt. Mommy, can Uncle Noah come over again? He makes the best jokes. Uncle Noah. The name throbbed in my chest. I smiled weakly. Maybe soon, baby. But deep down, I knew soon might be too soon, and too dangerous. That evening, as I tucked the kids into bed, I caught my own reflection in the hallway mirror. My eyes were different, tired, but alive, guilty but awake. How could I go back to the version of me who just waited at home for a husband who barely noticed when I cried myself to sleep? I found myself standing outside that same drawer where I'd hidden my phone. I pulled it open, opened a new message. Typed, can we talk, one last time? Paused, then hit send. I didn't know if I was asking for closure or permission to fall apart in the arms of the one man I wasn't supposed to love. His reply came almost immediately. Always come over, I'll be waiting. No hesitation. No question. Just 3 short sentences that made my knees weaken and my heart betray me all over again. I didn't tell anyone I was leaving, not even the kid's babysitter. I just said I needed air, a walk. A moment alone. I didn't lie exactly, but I didn't tell the truth either. His apartment was only 15 minutes away, but every step toward it felt like I was walking deeper into a secret I'd never be able to erase. When he opened the door, the way he looked at me almost undid me. Not with hunger, not with guilt, but with that same quiet ache I'd seen in the mirror. We didn't speak at first. He let me walk inside, close the door behind me, and just breathe. I didn't come here to make a decision. I whispered. I came here because pretending not to care is killing me. He nodded slowly, stepping closer. Then don't pretend, not with me. We stood inches apart. I could feel the warmth of his breath, the tension in the room pulsing like electricity, waiting to spark. I miss you, he said. Even when you're still in front of me, I miss you. Tears welled in my eyes. I hate this. I hate that I want something I can't have. But don't you see, he whispered, brushing a thumb across my cheek. You've already had it, we both have. The question is, what do we do now? I didn't have an answer. But when he kissed me again, I didn't stop him. Not because I was weak, but because for the first time in years, I felt strong enough to want more. The night unfolded slowly. We talked. We touched, we cried. We didn't plan the future, just lived in the moment we'd both been denied for too long. As dawn crept in, and I lay tangled in his arms, one thought consumed me. Was this really the end? Or the moment my real life finally began? By the time I stepped back into my house, the sun was rising in a gentle wash of pink and gold. The quiet calm of morning should have brought peace, but instead, it felt like I was walking back into a lie, wearing last night's truth. The babysitter had already left. My kids were still asleep, and the silence in the house was almost too loud. I took off my coat, hung it up carefully, and caught a glimpse of myself in the hallway mirror. My lips were swollen. My eyes looked softer. My heart felt messier. I washed my face, brushed my hair, and changed my clothes like I could somehow rinse the memory of his touch from my skin. But it clung to me. His scent, his words, his hands, everything lingered. I walked into the kitchen and froze. My husband's suitcase was by the door. He was home. He came back early. My heart jumped into my throat. Then I heard his voice behind me, casual like nothing had happened. Flight got in earlier than expected. Surprise. I turned, swallowing panic. You didn't tell me. He walked over and kissed my cheek like he always did. A mechanical peck, a routine. And for the first time, I didn't feel anything. No butterflies. No anger. Just emptiness. I brought something for the kids, he said, opening his bag. And for you too. I nodded and smiled. I don't even remember what it was, because all I could think about was that my heart wasn't in this house anymore. It was across town, in a man's bed who knew how to read my silence better than my husband ever read my words. That entire day, I played my part. I cooked, I listened, I nodded. But every glance at my phone was a scream I couldn't let out. And when I finally stole away to my bedroom and shut the door behind me, a message lit up the screen. I miss you already, say the word. And I'm yours, no matter what it costs. My finger hovered over the screen, trembling. Because now, I had to decide. Was I brave enough to destroy everything safe for a chance at something real? I didn't reply to his message right away. Not because I didn't want to, God. I wanted to. But because I was standing on the edge of a decision that would change everything. My marriage. My kids' lives, my reputation, my future. That night, my husband fell asleep beside me without a second glance. He didn't ask about my night. He didn't notice the tension in my body, the way I clutched the blanket too tightly, the way my breaths were shallow and sharp. He just snored gently, like I was invisible in his world. So I slipped out of bed, sat on the cold bathroom floor, and finally typed the words I hadn't let myself admit. I think I've already chosen you. I just don't know how to leave without breaking everything. I hit send before I could regret it. Seconds later, the reply came. Then let's break it, together, and build something real. I'll wait for you, no matter how long it takes. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I lay in bed next to a man who had stopped seeing me years ago, dreaming of the man who made me feel alive again. And in the morning, for the first time in my adult life, I opened my laptop, typed a letter, and saved it under a simple title. To my husband, when you finally ask why. Because I knew the day was coming. The day I'd walk away. Not to escape, but to run toward the love I never believed I deserved. Until he looked at me like I was worth the ruin. That Friday, we had dinner as a family. My husband had planned it, a rare attempt to be present. He made reservations at a quiet Italian restaurant downtown. The kids were excited. I played along, wore a soft blue dress, curled my hair, and smiled like everything was fine. But I could feel it, the letter waiting quietly in my drafts, the message still glowing in my phone, from a man who held pieces of me my husband never even knew existed. At the restaurant, he held my hand for the first time in months. You look beautiful tonight, he said. Casually, like a compliment borrowed from a script. Thanks, I replied, and I meant it, but not for him. Because the only person I wanted to hear those words from had said them without needing to. My mind drifted as he talked about work. I watched him laugh with the kids, the man I once fell in love with. And yet, something was missing. Not because he was cruel, but because I had changed. The love I'd fought to keep alive for so long had wilted, quietly, slowly, and now it felt like I was pretending to breathe in a room with no air. On the drive home, the kids fell asleep in the back seat. He reached for my hand again. I let him, but I felt nothing, just the echo of another touch, one that had awakened something I never thought I'd feel again. When we got home and put the kids to bed, he turned to me. "Have I lost you?" he asked, voice unsure for the first time. I paused, the words nearly broke me. "You didn't lose me, you just stopped seeing me." He looked confused, hurt. What does that mean? But I couldn't answer yet. Not tonight. Not like this. Instead I said, "We'll talk tomorrow." Then I slipped away to the bathroom and opened my phone. "Noah, are you okay?" I stared at the screen, tears filling my eyes. Me no, but I will be, soon. Because tomorrow, I'd open the letter. Tomorrow, I'd say the words. And tomorrow, I'd take the first real step toward the man I should have never fallen for, but did anyway. The next morning was quiet, almost too quiet. The kind that comes right before everything changes. I woke up early, heart pounding in my chest like it already knew what the day held. My husband was still asleep. I watched him for a moment, not with hate, not with anger, but with a kind of silent farewell. We had shared a life, built a home, raised beautiful children, but somewhere along the way, we forgot how to love each other. I walked to the kitchen, poured myself a cup of coffee, and opened my laptop. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, then I clicked the file. To my husband, when you finally ask why. I printed it, folded it, and left it on his nightstand. Inside the letter, I told the truth. That I had tried, that I had waited, that I had cried in silence for years, that I had met someone who made me feel again, not just desired but seen, loved, chosen. I didn't mention Noah by name. I didn't have to, he would know. I kissed my children goodbye while they were still asleep, tears slipping down my cheeks as I whispered, "This isn't goodbye. This is me becoming the mother they deserve, happy, whole, alive." Then I walked out of that house, not with shame, but with a fragile kind of strength. Noah was waiting. Not with flowers, not with grand gestures, just with open arms, and eyes that looked at me like I was worth starting over for. "I'm here," I said, standing in the doorway of his apartment, voice shaking. He stepped forward and wrapped me in the kind of hug that made all the noise in the world disappear. "You came," he whispered into my hair. "I had to," I said. "For once, I chose me. We didn't promise forever. We didn't paint fairy tales. But we stood there, two imperfect people, hearts bruised but still beating, and decided to build something real together. And sometimes, the greatest love stories aren't the ones that follow the rules, but the ones brave enough to break them."